Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. I am the host with the Q Post, and we're back with some Q Posts, and it looks like we're looking at some panic. Panic! Panic! In D.C. John's on the ones and twos. John, you all right?
Yeah.
How many we looking at today?
12.
Nice. Let's get started with 33, 36, 29 minutes after the hour of 8. We've got panic in D.C. And D.C. is in brackets. My goodness, that doesn't bode well for D.C. Takes us to this link right here to Fox. Trump gives AG Barr authority to declassify documents related to 2016 campaign surveillance.
What you doing to me? I want no chicken fries. I want a Whopper.
President Trump on Thursday night issued a memo giving Attorney General William Barr the authority to declassify any documents related to surveillance of the Trump campaign in 2016. Trump also ordered the intelligence community to cooperate with Barr. The memo read, "The heads of elements of the intelligence community and the heads of each department or agency that includes an element of the intelligence community shall promptly provide such assistance and information as the Attorney General may request in connection with that review." Today, at the request and recommendation of the Attorney General of the United States, President Donald J. Trump directed the intelligence community to quickly and fully cooperate with the Attorney General's investigation into surveillance activities during the 2016 presidential election, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said in a statement. And here is the statement right here. You can find it on Twitter. The Attorney General has also been delegated full and complete authority to declassify information pertaining to this investigation, in accordance with the long-established standards for handling classified information. Today's action will help ensure that all Americans learn the truth about the events that occurred and the actions that were taken during the last presidential election, and will restore confidence in our public institutions. Okay, so bacony, cheesy goodness incoming all up in your face. And we don't know how this is going to look, if it's going to be 5 big dumps like these 5 buckets they've been talking about. We know Gang of 8 information should be coming out. And we're still waiting to see on these Comey memos. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But we do know that this has got D.C. in a panic. And we've been waiting for this for quite some time. Now let's hear what Tucker Carlson has to say about it.
Yeah, this could be, and we don't know what it is. We don't know what this information yet is. But this could be a genuinely significant development, I think.
Yes, and this should actually have been done. He talked about doing this, and then Her Majesty's governments in Britain and Australia told him not to, because there's a lot of stuff in this that's actually embarrassing in terms of relations between the UK, Australia, and the US. But this is the ultimate game changer. This stuff, most of it shouldn't be classified. There's far too much stuff that is classified, and the only way actually to kill this investigation without end is to get it all out there and let the American people judge for themselves. Don't let the UK and Australia talk you out of it this time, Mr. President. We had a bureaucracy gone rogue. There is exculpatory evidence about American citizens who went to jail because the deep state went rogue on this. And the only way to get that out there is actually to release it all. This should have been done actually months ago, and it should have been done the day after the Mueller report was filed.
Grilling like a villain. An Anon sent this to me on Twitter. Looks to be a Whopper with cheese up in your face. And while this thing's all up in your face, give a quick listen to what Sarah Carter had to say the other day on Hannity that was being hosted by Danny Bag of Donuts Bongino. Check it out.
And I want you to think about this. Look at who we put in the memorandum. The Department of Energy, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Treasury, the Secretary of State, the CIA. He is asking all of these agencies, no more slow rolling, no more slow walking this information. Let's speed up this process, and let's let the Attorney General then decide what documents should be made public, because the American people deserve that. And people should take a very, very close look at all of the agencies that he has demanded cooperate with the Attorney General. That says a lot.
But indeed, you can see why all these dumps have created a panic in D.C. Let's move on for now. Post 3337, 35 minutes after the hour 8, Q takes us back to post 2042, back on August 31st. And I wanted to inject a quick note here. If you ever want to go back to some of my Q posts, I would suggest that just look at the date of the post itself, and then usually my video on it is the very next day. Not always, but in general, that'll kind of help you find a lot of these archived Q posts. But we're just going to cruise through this here because we've talked about this at great length before. This was a special approval code for one Natalia Veselnitskaya, who was the one who basically set up this whole meeting. And the idea was for her to get at Manafort. Now, she had been previously denied entry, but because of Loretta Lynch, Aunt Loretta hooked her up, and it looks like this was whatever the code was, got her a special entry visa. And evidently, according to Q, it looks like we've got a paper trail to prove that. Now, that was how this whole thing began in relation to FISA. But keep in mind, FISA was the cover-up. There were already other spying operations going on. FISA was just the one to make it look illegal. And of course, in order to really get at Trump, you needed to get people near Trump, meaning Manafort, Papadopoulos, Page, Flynn. You know the story. And according to this, it looks like that's how you did it. Umbrella surveillance. So you get a whole group of people that are related to Trump, and you spy on them. And then you spy on the little group that's outside of that little group. And then the next group that's outside that group. And like Q says, P talks to X, X talks to Y, Y talks to Z. And these people can gather bulk data on all these people. And that's how all this was done, long before Trump was even a candidate. But of course, this did end up extending to Trump, Papadopoulos, Manafort, Page, and of course Trump Jr. Q says important to remember, Page is public, right? FISA was the big public cover-up. That's why FISA is so important, because this was the one, this was the only one that they would really want to get out in the public, because it was the only one that was supposed to look legit. Remainder are still classified, plus Cruz, Q. Yeah, and if you can remember, if you can think back before Trump was really in the picture, who would have been the opposition's biggest threat? I would assume guys like Paul Ryan, Ted Cruz. Looks like they were even spying on Jeff Sessions. So anybody basically who had Democratic opposition and might potentially be an opposition presidential candidate. And of course, they didn't take Trump seriously until he actually won the primaries, and then it became him. Let's move on to 3338. 41 minutes after the hour of 8, we get taken back to 2927 and post 2657. And they are right next to each other here, where Q has mentioned Cruz. Now let's go to the one on the right first, because that was the one that came first back on the 6th of January. When will the public discover that Ted Cruz was also illegally surveilled? How about that pre-POTUS Republican nomination? Yeah, like I just said. But it's even bigger, ladies and gentlemen. CIA illegal surveillance, members of Congress, members of the press, Senate Intel Committee. So that's a lot of people, and there's a lot of these people who aren't necessarily bad actors that were being spied on. When we find things like that out, particularly members of the press, I think it's going to be a major game changer. Now we see it again here in 2927. This was the 2nd of March down here. POTUS being number 1, Cruz. Number 2, was Cruz the target of a separate illegal spy campaign? So like I said, Q's been alluding to this all along, and we know that there were other projects that were before FISA. Some of you might try to memorize us about Project Hammer. I know a lot of you guys have been sending me the Dave Janda video. I've seen it, by the way. You don't have to keep sending it. I've seen it. And we've actually talked about it here on this channel. Yes, you would be right. There were other operations. Now, I'm not exactly sure of the exact names of all of them, but there were separate operations, and this was going on for quite some time. All FISA really was to make it look legit. But it looks like right now Q wants us to turn our attention to Cruz. Now Q is basically head nodding to this Anon here that says plus Cruz. Q says follow the watch.
Got a flashback of signs, yeah, take you back, yeah, yeah.
Taking you back to this proof here, this is from Post 3230 back on March 28th. And these were the first couple watches that we saw. The first one here is from January 5th on the left and from March 2nd on the right. The one on the left showing the time of 3:15 and the one on the right showing 3:42. Both of them are sitting next to the presidential, what looks to be the presidential executive order pen. And on the left, we have the book closed. And on the right, we have the book open. Now, we had kind of figured out that this was coinciding with this here, where we see on this POTUS schedule tweet, the declaration of a national emergency on the southern border was authorized by U.S. Attorney General William Barr in the Oval Office at 3:42 p.m. So there you see the date there, March 15th being 3:15, and it was it was announced at 3:42 p.m. So that was the first time we saw the watches. Then we see them here in 3231 and 3232. We've got the watch again, and we're just going to look at 3232 because it's got both pictures here. But the first one says marker 1, and it appears to be set there at what looks like 4:49 on the 19th. That's marker 1. And then we see this one right here, which looks to have the date of the 27th, and it appears that the time is about 3:05, maybe 3:06, just after 3:05 on the 27th. And Q says marker 2 set. So at a quick glance, I would think that maybe something could be dropping here on the 27th. Not really sure. What I do know is that in the past, we've been proven wrong often, but it ends up making sense in the end. Future proves past, right? But yeah, I guess an initial guess, it could very well be likely something is dropping on the 27th, which is just in a couple days. Now, in relations to these times, whether these are times speaking to dates or times speaking to times, not really sure. Something could be dropping at a 4:49 or 3:05, not really sure. And I also don't really want to muddy up your ideas because some of you guys come up with some really brilliant stuff, and I like to sit on these for a few days. But those are the last times that we've seen the watch, and what we have seen in the past is that when Q finally does drop something, we end up picking up on the proof, usually after the fact. Let's move on for now. Now, just for fun, I thought that maybe 449 was referring to Post 449, where an Anon had posted this from Donald Trump's Twitter. How can FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, the man in charge, along with leaking James Comey of the phony Hillary Clinton investigation, including her 33,000 illegally deleted emails, be given $700,000 for wife's campaign by Clinton puppets during investigation? Yeah, we'd all like to know. And don't forget, Andrew McCabe was in charge of all this until that was taken away from him and given to Rod Rowe. Q said, who posted first? We were talking about a Q proof at the time. And then says number 2 in brackets. Well, number 2 was number 2 of the FBI, which was one Andrew McCabe. And we'd all like to know exactly how he got that funding from Clinton puppets. And I have a feeling this is going to be part of the dumps. As a matter of fact, they've said it on Fox a couple times now that of these 5 buckets of information, if you will, we are going to give some more information in regards to this. And I have a feeling it is in text message form. So maybe that could be the next thing that's coming out. Not really sure, but that is your Post 449. Post 3339, 45 minutes after the hour of 8, Q's responding to an Anon who asks, is POTUS going to ask the Queen about UK assistance? Q says, foreign assistance underway with DOJ, meaning that this has already been going on for a while. And we kind of suspected this because of this article here, which we've actually covered before. It's an article from a couple of years ago from The Guardian. And this was when GCHQ Chief Robert Hannigan quit. And I don't want to cover this much because we've actually covered it a couple of times, but I do want to point this out right here. It says his sudden resignation, he informed staff just hours before making this decision public, prompted speculation that it might be related to British concerns over shared intelligence with the U.S. in the wake of Donald Trump becoming president. But the GCHQ press release stressed his decision was exclusively for family reasons, as well as his ill wife. Hannigan has 2 elderly parents to look after. He will remain in post until a successor is appointed. Okay, so like I said, this was a couple of years ago, but it was very, very sketchy times, right? And people were wondering if this had something to do with Donald Trump becoming POTUS. Now, let me just read you this last part here. Hannigan only took over at the UK surveillance agency in November 2014. He wasn't really an intelligence guy before that, to oversee a more open approach after revelations by the NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden put GCHQ on the defensive in 2013. Okay, so he was already under a lot of pressure and he had stepped down. Let's go back to the Q post. Q adds on right here with a fly may fly. I'm assuming he is referring to Theresa May. And then we've got a couple of these right here. Now, I have always been of the assumption that this to me seems to show that there must be some sort of surveillance on these people. I could be wrong, but I'm not so sure that I am. It looks a little bit like every time we see this fly, something fly, and we've seen quite a few different names in between the words fly. But this looks to me like a satellite, and I've explained in past videos why I tend to think that this has to do with satellite surveillance. I'm not exactly sure, but Theresa May is most certainly under a lot of pressure, especially considering the Brexit vote. And I'm over here at the Brexit party on Twitter. This was posted about 9 hours ago. It says polls are now closed. If you're still in the queue, you can still vote. Thank you to everyone. Well, we wish our friends from across the pond the best of luck. This has been an ongoing situation for you guys as well. And of course, you guys are such key friends and allies to us Americans that we've been watching your story too. It's been hard to concentrate considering all the things that have been going on in the United States. But we can see that overall, it looks like the people are trying to get out of the EU. Now, we know that there's a lot of remainers there too. So this is a really important vote. And it looks like we're not going to find out until Sunday. So we're going to have to just chill through the weekend and see what's up. But we wish you the best. I do not think that Theresa May is going to last, though. I do think either way she's going to just, I think there's just too much pressure on her right now. She's likely going to have to step down. Q has alluded to it, but really honestly, Q hasn't needed to allude to it because we can kind of see it ourselves. She's not popular either way, and she's most certainly not enacting the will of the people. So that being said, for our friends out there in the UK, best wishes to you, and I'd love to hear what you guys think and what you would like to see, who you would like to see be the next PM. Let me know. Now, moving on to the next post. 3340, 53 minutes after the hour of 8. And Anon was asking on the research board about the term page that Q had used, referring to Carter page. And they weren't sure if they were talking about a web page, Lisa page, or whatever. So this Anon is just clarifying for them that it was Carter page. And Q piggybacks on that, reminding us that the Carter page public FISA, remember, this was to let everybody know that it was all good, even though they've been spying before that. But the other programs, remainder, are still under classification until today. Waterfall of proofs coming post declass. So we're going to start hearing more about these other spying operations now, starting really today. Let's go ahead and move on to the next post, 3341. 1 minute after the hour of 9, and this is in regards to what's the previous bread being the previous thread. And Anon is asking Q what's the status basically on Julian Assange, and Q says under protection, threat is real. Key to DNC source, hack 187. Of course, we know that when we find out what Julian Assange knows, we're going to find out what's going on with Seth Rich and how this DNC server was quote unquote hacked, even though we know it wasn't hacked. We know it was a thumb drive. But we kind of know this story already, but what we don't know is what's going on with Julian Assange. Now, I would like to make a clarification because I get a lot of people asking me about Julian Assange on the regular. And to be fair, I don't talk a lot about Julian Assange. And this is really essentially why, and Q is kind of making my point. I speculated this a long time ago. Those of you who have followed my channel know this, that I have said that I have always believed that we've had Julian Assange for quite some time. Q is kind of buttressing that point here by saying under protection, but the threat is real. And that's why I don't talk much about him, because I don't really want to give too much away that could lead the bad guys to Julian Assange. So I'm not really sure where. I'm not going to speculate where. This is what I've long believed, and that's just me. You're welcome to disagree. But if you're wondering why I haven't talked much about it, essentially that's it. Remember, everybody is watching. The world is watching this. So, you know, we don't really necessarily want to lead the black hat straight to his door, right? But we do know that either way, the server or Julian Assange brings the house down. And according to Q, we've got both. Let's move on. Post 3342, 2 minutes after the hour of 9. We get this from back in April 15, post 1164. And Anon is reminding us about the Five Eyes data collection and how the UK as well as Australia had assisted in setting this up. Now, keep in mind this GCHQ chief, Robert Hannigan, he was the one that was basically saying, hey, man, looks like we've got some Russian campers in the Trump camp. And he was the one that was sharing that with John. He's a brute. Brennan, right? And here the Anon says UK, Australia, assist, set up. And Q is, of course, confirming. Let's move on. Post 3343, 7 minutes after the hour of 9. And Anonymous takes us to post 1745, a post from July 28th. The highlighted part here is talking about FISA. Implicates senior members of UK, MI5, MI6, SIS, being British intelligence, U.S. intel, White House, Five Eyes, Republican Party, Congress, Senate of known corruption in effort to retain power and rig election, plus safeguard events by political kill to act while in power, given MSM fake push Russia narrative. FISA equals ties to MSM heads, TV behind corporations to Democratic Party and other foreign heads of state in the co-op strategy. And of course, Q is confirming here. And this is really, really big information. We're starting to see this seep out into the rest of the world. This is definitely a worldwide issue. And if you'll remember, we heard this week too about this report about meetings that were going on within the Situation Room that were being cut from the video feed. And this involved a small group of people. This is a little quote here from Breitbart. They worked exclusively for two groups of customers, officials said. The first was Obama and fewer than 14 senior officials in government. The second was a team of operations specialists at the CIA, NSA, and FBI who took direction from the task force on where to aim their subsequent efforts to collect more intelligence on Russia. The number of Obama administration officials who were allowed access to the Russia intelligence was also highly limited, the Post reported. This was the Washington Post a while back. At first, only 4 senior officials were involved. Brennan, Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, Attorney General Aunt Loretta Lynch, and then FBI Director James, dude, I ain't your homie Comey. Their aides were all barred from attending the initial meetings, the Post stated. Well, I would assume if you got blanked out video screens, and it sounds like John Brennan was handing everybody little cool guy envelopes to let them know if they were invited to the secret ninja meeting or not. Sounds like skullduggery to me, and it sounds like we're going to find out exactly what was up. But this clearly meant that they were probably meeting with foreign adversaries or allies, depending on who you were talking to, I suppose. But this is definitely some freaky stuff, and it looks like it's got the rest of the world in a panic. Meanwhile, James Nobody's homie Comey and John Brennan, as well as Loretta Lynch, are all playing hot potato as to the origins of this Christopher Steele dossier. They're kind of passing the buck, saying so-and-so said it was okay. No, he said it was okay. No, she said it was okay. Let's move on to 3334. 11 minutes after the hour of 9. Yikes, 9/11. And Anon is asking about Comey. What about the Comey report? Yeah, we were hoping to get that any day now. Q says moves and counter moves. Misdirection sometimes creates one person to turn on another publicly. Okay, well, this has been come out in the mainstream media, if you will, that this Comey report was going to be coming out. And of course, Comey has been very vocal as of late, tweeting all his thoughts in these really what can I say, introspective type Twitter photos. Really creepy stuff. And we talked a little bit about one of his tweets just yesterday. But Q saying misdirection, I'm imagining that the threat of this Comey release probably is getting him to spill beans on Brennan. Of course, Brennan's not going to deal with that either. He's going to spill it right back on Comey, when the fact is that we both know that they were both guilty. We knew that Comey knew that this matter was definitely more than just a matter in relation to Hillary Clinton's emails. We know that he knew that this Christopher Steele information was false. And of course, Brennan was taking this information and passing it around. And he was the one that was getting it from foreign people. So the fact of the matter is that both these dudes knew all about it, and they're both screwed. Q says coming soon. We've got C in brackets, which I'm assuming means nobody's homie Comey. Let's move on. Post 3345, 23 minutes after the hour of 9. We've seen this before. Yeah, it's the movie poster for FISA Gate. It looks like it's about to preview. So ladies and gentlemen, pop your popcorn, kick up your feet, sit back and relax.
In a world where nothing is what it seems, one man chooses to stand alone against the forces of evil and dumb.
Just when you thought your Gmail was safe.
No, God, please, no!
From the creators of Tarmac comes another epic tale of betrayal, denial, rebuttal, recusal, and sometimes cake. Starring James Nobody's homie Comey, Loretta Lynch as Aunt Loretta, Jacketless Jim Jordan, Rod Rowe, Dude Don't Be Such a Dick Durbin, and Eric Schneiderman. Starring Barack Obama
as the Purenya from Kenya, Hillary Clinton as the diabolical Hillary Clinton, and the one man who had the courage to tell them all, "You're fired," President Donald J. Trump. If you liked tarmac, you'll totally tolerate FISA-gate. Coming soon to a theater near you.
All right, well, if you didn't like that one, how about some of our other coming attractions? Post 3346, 25 minutes after the hour of 9. Looks like we've got a choice between 45, Tarmac, FISA-gate, Trump 2020, and sanctions are coming. But either way, it's coming soon to a theater near you. Let's move on. Post 3347, 13 minutes after the hour of 10. Why did POTUS circumvent DNI, that would be Dan Coates, normal protocol for declass and give authority directly to AG Barr? Well, I have a feeling it probably would have been obstructed. Now, I'm not 100% sure here, but our head of the DNI, Dan Coates, who has locked horns on numerous occasions with POTUS, this guy has always struck me as a little bit of a knucklehead and seems to be there just to make trouble. I'm not 100% sure that he is on our side. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I want to point out that he's been very close to John McCain in the past, and he's also been very close to a lot of British intelligence too. In particular, the Hecloit group, which is basically British spy intelligence. This was also the group that Brennan was meeting with. So I'm not so sure that DNI Coates is on the up and up. And of course, AG Barr knows exactly what's up. And so I have a feeling that this is probably why it circumvented DNI Coates, because likely it's going to involve him. Now, I want to point out, and I'm afraid I don't have it on me right now, but Greg Rubini on Twitter did a great thread about this a while ago, and I tend to agree, and particularly on one point. If you guys remember this op-ed that was written a while back in the New York Times, and it was from somebody who was in the Trump administration, I'm not so sure it wasn't Dan Coates. Now, I don't know if it was or not, but a lot of signs seem to point to the fact that it very well could be. And of course, that same day, POTUS had posted a tweet just simply saying treason. So are we talking about Dan Coates? I'm not 100% sure, but it wouldn't surprise me that he's a bit of an obstructionalist, if you will, whereas AG Barr seems very, very keen on getting this out. And at this point, after 2 years, the last thing we need is more roadblocks, which would be basically what I would assume Dan Coates to be. All right, Patriots, those are your Q posts. Let me leave you with one last uplifting story from Fox News. Twitter bans left-wing Krassenstein brothers for operating fake accounts. New report on Thursday says that the prolific anti-Trump Twitter personalities Brian and Ed Krassenstein have been permanently banned from the platform. The Krassenstein brothers made names for themselves on Twitter for trolling President Trump, GOP lawmakers, and other big-name conservatives, as well as being two of the biggest cheerleaders of special counsel Robert Mueller as part of the hashtag resistance. Both Brian and Ed Krassenstein would make frequent appearances in the replies of President Trump's tweets. Well, just days after some noticed their accounts were inactive, the Daily Beast reports that they will not be returning to Twitter. All right, so great news, right? Couple of knuckleheads. Looks like they're on their way out the door. I got to admit, I'm going to kind of miss them on Twitter. What's going on with the bedhead over here, Ed? Bedhead Ed. Anyway, Bedhead Ed and Brian are kicked off of Twitter. Now, normally I would not really celebrate this because I'll be honest with you, I'm a free speech advocate, and I believe that even these knuckleheads have the right to speak. Fair enough. I don't have to like everything that they say, and be honest with you, like I said, I kind of miss them on Twitter. But here's the fact of the matter. The Twitter rules apply to everyone. A Twitter spokesperson told the Daily Beast operating multiple fake accounts and purchasing account interactions are strictly prohibited. And that's what we were always saying they were doing, right? They were basically purchasing these accounts. And of course, the fact of the matter that they were able to get underneath all of POTUS's tweets definitely showed that there was some foul play going on, right? Engaging in these behaviors will result in permanent suspension from the service. Well, that's what the service says right outright. And I basically support that kind of thing. I think the argument against a lot of conservatives getting bumped from places like Twitter or YouTube or whatever is that, well, it's a private platform. Okay, well, fair enough. But if you're going to express those rules, don't you need to express those rules up front so that you know that you're breaking them, so that you have something demonstrable that you're actually breaking? Most conservatives, we don't really know what's happening. We just know that we're either in Twitter jail or we're getting suspended or shadow banned or whatever, but we're not really sure what the offenses are because they're never consistent. And that's the big problems that we've had. Well, this report suggests that the Krassenstein brothers could have bought followers that would like and retweet their posts in order to boost their profiles. Well, that's against the rules, and that's against Twitter's rules, and Twitter's rules apply to everyone. That includes Brian and Bedhead Ed. All right, kids, that's all I got for you for now. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who do that already. If you're new to my channel, welcome to you. Please keep in mind that from time to time, you're going to get unclicked and unnotified and unsubscribed. Just do me a favor, check yourself back, re-notify yourself, re-click yourself. You don't need to notify me. I'm aware of it. That's why I'm making you aware of it. Yep, we can work together, and you can find me. If you search IPOT, I find that it's a little bit easier to follow me, but whatever works for you. All my alternate links are down below. My Gab, my BitChute, my Brighteon.com, and I'm over here usually on Twitter at IPOT1776. If you're on Twitter, please join me over here. This is where I spend a lot of my time when I'm not making videos. That's IPOT1776. My email link is down below if you'd like to send me some information. My P.O. box is down below if you'd like to send me something old school. And if you'd like to support the channel, my Patreon link is down below. All those links are down below. All right, kids, this is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay safe.